gear wheel. It's now in a high gear, and if I put the back brakes on and put some pressure on the pedal, you should see it moving in and out. Let's just get it in a slightly different position. There, in and out. When you're actually riding the bike, it does it more gradually, but that is the movement you'll see. And any slack in the chain is taken up by a spring-loaded arm on the back wheel. Well, that's the theory. Unfortunately, the practice is much harder to illustrate because television studios don't tend to have many hills around, and so it's difficult to try it out. So we've decided to use a hill simulator, this contraption here, which Keep Fit enthusiasts will recognise, because by turning a handle here at the front, you can increase the pressure of a pad on the back wheel, making it much harder to keep pedalling, which is obviously what happens when you go up hills. So I'm hoping to be able to pedal at a constant speed and pressure, because if the new gear works, when Sue comes in, if you will, Sue, and increase the pressure by turning that on the back wheel, the automatic gear change should compensate. Now, at the moment, it's the equivalent of going along on the flat. Sue is increasing the pressure, and I shouldn't feel the difference. Now, there's a pressure gauge, and as you can see from it, Sue is gradually doubling the pressure, and it's just as easy to pedal. And you can see that the chain has gradually moved in. Unfortunately, it doesn't take all the effort out of cycling, but it could give the bike its first real update for 80 years. It's a bright idea, which, if it had been dreamed up as a school project, it might easily have won BBC1's Young Scientist of the Year competition. Entries are needed now for the next contest, which is open to pupils in secondary schools all over the country. You can get information and entry forms from Young Scientists, Kensington House, Richmond Way, London West 14. So do have a go. I'm told there are more cash awards this year to tempt those who find mere glory isn't enough.
No train has used Liffey Junction in Dublin for years. The place was so heavily vandalised that it was just abandoned. The food factory next door was broken into almost daily. But now, strangely enough, it just doesn't happen. This clothing warehouse tried everything to stop kids breaking in through the roof and stealing their goods. Barbed wire, alarms, all failed to stop them. But now, they too have completely eliminated the problem. This electricity substation used to be broken into daily. Vandals would hold parties in there and throw bricks at the transformer. But now they can't get in or out, even to retrieve their football. The Irish invention which has stopped vandalism almost completely in places like this is simple and effective. No, it's not this. It's this. Imagine a set of rotating doors on their side, and you're almost there. All it is sheets of expanded metal mounted on a horizontal pivot. Every time you push against a face, it gives way under your weight. Well, it may look easy to beat, but I wouldn't recommend it, because unlike barbed wire, there's nothing to hold on to. It rotates and could send you crashing to the ground.
Now here's a familiar sight from factories everywhere. It's a hydraulic pump. Here's the pump itself. It draws liquid out of a reservoir at the bottom, and by pumping it through narrow pipes and finally into the pistons of the machines it's going to drive, it provides power in the form of pressurized liquid. In a television studio, it also provides a fair amount of noise, so can we switch it off? The liquid with which it works is this stuff. It's heavy-duty mineral oil, sticky, viscous, and daily, it seems, becoming more and more expensive. It does, though, do the job rather well, though in theory, any liquid could be used. This simple demo of the hydraulic principle we've got actually uses water. Pump water into a confined space here at the bottom, steadily increasing the pressure in this area, and then use that amplified pressure to do some work for you. Because these tubes are of a different diameter, I can convert low pressure, long movement in the narrow tube to less movement of the heavy weight. Success. And indeed, of course, many venerable pieces of engineering owed their early success to hydraulic power using water. Famous Tower Bridge, for instance, used to lift its roadway with water. The lifts at least one major London store used a similar principle. But 4 years ago, Tower Bridge gave up water. The system had over the years corroded and sprung too many leaks to be of any more use. Under pressure between metal surfaces, water is just not as strong as oil. So apart from causing corrosion, water doesn't do an effective lubrication job. It doesn't keep the metal surfaces apart. However, if we add to our water a small amount of this new, potentially very valuable, very secret chemical compound, we may be able to tell a different story. The developers of this additive reckon that a mixture of 90% water, 10% new ingredient will be enough to turn water into a useful hydraulic fluid. This is the theory. The surface of a piece of metal may look smooth, but under an electron microscope it shows its true colors. It looks more like a lunar landscape. Now rub two pieces of metal together and those peaks and troughs act rather like the tread of a tire working on a road surface. But if we look at a piece of film, we can see what happens when a road gets really wet. The tire treads become so full of water, contact with the road is lost, and in these circumstances, water is demonstrating that it can lubricate alarmingly well. The problem is water doesn't work like that between metals because its molecules won't fit into those tiny pits on the metal surface. And that's where the new additive comes in. It effectively becomes the filling of a sandwich formed by the metal and the moving water above it. It also helps prevent corrosion as it insulates the metal surface from attack by hydrogen ions, which are always present in water. And they're the things that tend to cause the corrosive reactions. In fact, because the additive is slightly alkaline, it chemically reduces the amount of hydrogen ions in the water in any case. But the big question, how well does it perform as a lubricant? Well, this is a test rig which is designed specifically to show how effectively different liquids perform as lubricants. What have we got? Down here in this bath there is a steel pin, I can show you more clearly here in the fresh air, which is being rotated by the unit whilst at the same time is being gripped by two steel jaws. So, now when the test is running, the load on those jaws is being consistently increased. They're being pushed together, making it harder for the steel pin to rotate, making it harder for the liquid in the bath to lubricate the various metal surfaces. Now by setting the machine up so, I can commence the process of steadily increasing the load on the jaws, and we can read off this meter what the load is in pounds. Now a test like this actually takes quite a long time, so this afternoon we ran a test using as lubricant pure water. Watch the load meter. It's approaching 500 pounds now. The steel pin rotating between the... and there's failure. Just over 500 pounds, the arrangement failed, and back live in the studio we can see the results of that experiment. Here's the pin that you saw being tested. It has worn, it has actually corroded to one of the jaws, and the end has sheared off. Pure water as a lubricant, bit of a failure. And don't forget, 500 is the number to remember. This test we're running now is using water from the same tap, but with the 10% additive. And as you can see, we've reached 2,250 pounds. We're well on our way to 2,500. And earlier tests using this equipment, I've actually seen over 3,000. Now, you're not likely to start lubricating your lawnmower with this sort of stuff, no matter how successfully it works in a test here. And indeed, some conversion work may be necessary before it can be used even in existing hydraulic machinery. But heavy mineral oils are becoming harder to get, and our North Sea oil doesn't contain much of them. With an estimated 75% saving on costs, engineers may at last find watering the wheels of industry not quite as absurd an idea as it sounds.
You might be getting the impression that I spend most of my time in baths of various sorts, and today It's a sauna bath. This portable homemade version was designed particularly for relieving arthritic pains. But I'm just finding it very relaxing and also very hot. But if it starts to get a little bit too hot, you can just unzip the cover. Or if you're really getting desperate, you can actually push your way out by unpopping the press studs. I feel a lot better now. And inside, all the water is stored in this 3-gallon tank. If you push this handle, the water's pumped round to a plate, which is heated to about 200 degrees centigrade. When water contacts that plate, you get plenty of steam. And there's no need to traipse off for a shower either, because there's one already built in. And the temperature of that is controlled by a dial on the other side of the unit. Anything from 20 to 50 degrees centigrade. So, a mini sauna that'll fit in most corners of your house. That's all for this week. Good night.
And Mrs. Thatcher repeated